Mail, baggage, express, and passengers are transferred to all points on the continent, for Chicago is the hub of air transportation in the Midwest. Mail, baggage, and express are carried in the front and rear cargo pits. The food supply is placed on board. Thermos bottles of coffee, milk, and soup, containers of fried chicken, meats, vegetables, salads, butter, and ice cream are stowed away in the galley in the back of the cabin. Now the crew, Dad and Bob, 19 other passengers board the main liner. Seated in large, comfortable seats, the thrilling moment has come. The all-clear signal is given to the pilot, and Captain Wallace moves the throttles forward, and the ship trundles along the apron, waddling like a goose to an assigned runway. In the background stands hundreds of people, wishing us a happy landing in the land of cowboys. The main liner passes the terminal, passes the hangars, and taxis far down the long, flat field. From a standing start, the main liner races along the runway and sails into the sky with the ease of a great albatross. Dad, we're off the ground, bound for Wyoming. Chicagoland fades in the distance. Several thousand feet below our wings is the old Overland Trail, which has been blazed boldly across the pages of American history. It began with the Indian and his pony. Then came the Pony Express, the first iron horse, the telegraph, the telephone, the automobile, and now the aeroplane linking the Atlantic seaboard with the Pacific Ocean. The checkered board fields of Illinois and Iowa pass in review. We see ribbons of concrete forming a network of highways, streams flowing on to join the Father of Waters. Captain goes back to headquarters. All's well on trip 15. Then Miss Brown came forward to visit with Bob and asked him if this is his first air trip. The Badlands of Wyoming pass in review. Captain Wallace pilots the main liner higher and higher, and Mother Nature dipped into her treasure chest to splash on the canvas of blue a masterpiece, the passing parade of the sky. Now sailing along in the cloud canyons, 12,000 feet below our wings is the earth filled full of turmoil and confusion, while we revel in a world of mechanical wonderment and much natural beauty. The bigness of nature made us feel insignificant, but there was a sense of power. We usually have to look up. For a little while, we could look down. Then came a dinner fit for the gods. Think of eating a chop or a steak with all the trimmings, while sailing along at 200 miles an hour. After the motors hum like two happy bees for nearly 2,000 miles, Captain Wallace brings the main liner down from the sky for a happy landing in the land of cowboys, Wyoming. Bye and wishes us lots of good fishing luck. Captain Wallace presents Bob with a pair of wings as token in memory of his first trip by air. We open our tour of Yellowstone with the grand old showman, Old Faithful Geyser, picturesque and weird, spouting hot water and billowy steam 150 feet high, day and night, summer and winter for countless centuries. Yellowstone was discovered in the year of 1807 by members of the Lewis and Clark expedition. Wandered around this region, they came upon a natural phenomenon never before known to mankind. They found geysers, mud volcanoes, paint pots, and waterfalls beyond human imagination. As they sat around the evening campfires, they resolved this area should be set aside as government-owned property, free of commercial enterprise. When they returned to civilization, these adventures told stories of what they had seen, but the public was skeptical. No one would believe such accounts could be true. And not until 60 years later did the United States government send an official expedition for further investigation. It is to the wearers of the buckskin that we owe a great debt of gratitude, for it was through their efforts that Yellowstone became the beginning of our national park system. Leaving Old Faithful Castle, Grotto, Daisy, Riverside, and Giantess Geysers, we traveled to Mammoth Hot Springs to view an act that's been playing a million years on the stage built by Mother Nature. In centuries past, the water burst from the mountainside with a mineralized flow. Here, lime in solution is quickly precipitated, forming basins and terraces and slopes of exquisite design, the whole adorned with intricate and fantastic fretwork of pink and white. At one time, Mammoth Hot Springs was the greatest show in Yellowstone. An abundance of water flowed over Angel Terrace. But today, we can only visualize the grandeur of its beauty as we see a small portion of its color due to the algae living in the hot water. The present road system of Yellowstone touches most of the greater and lovely attractions. The Golden Gate is the northern entrance to this curious workshop. Broad two-lane highways are supplemented by a system of trails to the more mountainous parts of the park. Electric Mountain is one of the high points of Yellowstone. The park is the home of countless number of animals. This wildlife paradise contains several thousand elk, a few hundred moose, many deer, and numerous bands of mountain sheep, and a herd of about 1,000 buffalo. In fact, the park has so large a population of wild animals that in most respects it is the greatest wildlife preserve in the world. Within a few hundred feet of the main highway are the famous pools known as Morning Glory, Emerald, and Sapphire. These quiescent springs and prismatic pools have a delicate, exquisite, gem-like beauty unlike anything else in nature or art. This is the Firehole River Basin. The paint pots are the curiosities of the park. They are craters in the earth filled with brightly colored mud, thick and hot, of fine texture and in appearance resembling mixed and colored paint. Gibbon Falls, which was made famous by President Hoover when he fished in Yellowstone. Looking down the highway, one sees a multitude of white columns, irregular jets and puffs of misty vapor ascending from the bottom of the valley. This is Geyser Basin. Not spectacular geysers as those found around Old Faithful, but a series of smaller ones equally as fascinating. Minuteman and Whirligig have played their acts through countless of centuries. It is a common sight to see them teasing for food from a tourist lunch basket because by nature a bear has a sweet tooth for cake or cookies. Yellowstone Lake with Mount Sheridan in the background is a scenic attraction of first order. It is the largest lake in North America at so high an altitude. At the outlet of the lake is Fishing Bridge. Since the bridge abounds with native trout, many fish are caught by anglers from all parts of the continent. Again, our attention is drawn to Mother Nature at work as a chemist or cook, cunningly compounding a variety of mineral messes, cooking whole mountains, boiling and steaming flinty rocks to smooth paste. Pots of black ink are tossed and stirred in sticky, rank-smelling masses, with gasping, belching, thudding sounds as if a fierce furnace were burning beneath them. The scenery of Yellowstone is yet to come. Here is the upper falls of the Yellowstone River falling into a canyon 800 feet deep, 1,600 feet across, with all the colors that Mother Nature could pack into rock and clay. The Green Serpent winds its way through the Cameo Canyons to join the Missouri and on the Mississippi. Standing upon Inspiration Point, looking upstream at the upper end of this canyon, the river, about 75 feet wide, makes a sheer leap of 330 feet. From the nearby rim, this wonderful waterfalls appears like an enormous, fluffy, endless pouring of the whitest snowflakes. The magnificence and the wildness of its setting combine to make it one. We travel southward to the Teton Mountains, one of the nation's newer national parks. Standing on Signal Hill, we view the grandeur of the majestic Grand Teton. Standing in soldier fashion, snow-capped, reaching into the sky 13,500 feet. A series of peaks, then Mount Moran with Geyser Lake in the foreground. In historic days, Jackson Hole was claimed by the bad men of the range, horse thieves and cattle rustlers who lived by the protection of a six-shooter. Today it is given away to the home of the bald-faced cattle and the dude ranch, and is visited annually by tourists who come to revel in the atmosphere of the rip-roaring Old West. Jenny Lake, one of the most photographed lakes on the continent of North America, is one of Mother Nature's jewels set in a rim of granite lined with ridgepole pine. Our short tour of Teton National Park terminates at John Turner's Triangle X Ranch. Arrangements have been made with John to guide us on a pack train trip in the Two Ocean Pass country far off the beaten path of civilization, a region where Colonel Theodore Roosevelt spent his youthful days hunting elk and fishing mountain trout. John tells us that we will ride a full day over the range trails to a base camp, and from that point right out to the fishing grounds. When Bob heard John talking about horses, his ears stuck out like sails on a windjammer. He had visions of his horse and hoped it would be a black one by the name of Beauty. Bob, being a city boy, makes friends with the animals on the ranch. John has two dogs, each equally jealous of the other. If one didn't keep a hand on both of them, there was apt to be a good dog fight. Horseshoeing is almost a lost art, but not new shoes to assist them to climb the rough and rugged trails. It's been a busy day making preparations for the trip. Say, what's going on here? Oh, it's dinner time for the young fry, and that means dinner time for the ranch hands and us. Is this little fellow hungry? You would be too if you were 2 days old. Early the next morning, John rode over the range to round up the horses. There will be 5 people on the trip. Here come the two rollicking bronco busters, the riders of the Purple Sage, the two toughest gunmen that ever rode south of Dead Man's Gulch, but to an old cowhand more commonly known as Dudes. Hands saddle the riding horses, and we will soon be ready to head for the trails leading to the Continental Divide. The pack train winds its way up the mountain slopes through parks, wooded areas, through meadows, and over the range. Behind us is civilization and the workaday world. Ahead is vacation land. Around each bend in the trail, there's a little of the unexpected. Over the crest of the range is the land of new mystery and adventure. Wild animals spy on us across the valley. It is the time of the year when they have their young, and knowing man is an enemy, they stare from a safe distance, but ever ready to move to safety. An old bull elk lying on the ground gives his permission to take his picture, with the reservation that we include his wife and kids. The pack train pushes on, climbing. In the distance across the valley on the side slope, we catch our first glimpse of our new campsite. No, that's not rheumatism. It's the results of an all-day's ride for a tenderfoot. As we approach the campground, two monarchs of the forest are on hand as a reception committee, extending a hearty welcome to their homeland. The baggage, arranging the food supply in the open-air kitchen, preparing the sleeping quarters, gathering the wood supply. Our water supply is a nearby cool, clear spring. Tex is our cook and horse wrangler, and he is an expert coffee maker. He has a recipe all of his own. He boils it, and then he boils it some more. Then, too, he has a technique of testing the finished product. Now comes that part of the trip for which we've traveled nearly 2,000 miles. We head for the fishing grounds along the Pacific Creek Trail into the Two Ocean Pass country on the Continental Divide. Near our camp is a mountain lake filled with trout, and Dad couldn't resist challenging them to a fight. Every cast produced a member of the Finney tribe, native cutthroat trout. A beautiful fish with an ugly name, and it receives its name by two red markings on the lower jaw. Then Dad sat down under a tree to admire his first catch of mountain trout. Yes, to gloat and tantalize admirers of his luck. A right that belongs to trout fishermen only. John has his own technique for fishing trout. We'll see him down the trail a ways. There he sits on his horse, casting a fly from the saddle. We begin fishing in earnest in a canyon leading into a meadow at the very headwaters of the Yellowstone River, rushing from melting snow down the mountainside. There sits John again in the saddle. And he says, out here, all you have to do is drop the fly in the water. The horse backs away and pull him up and put him in the creel. The fish were like fish in a trout hatchery. They laid side by side, as if they'd run to tell their brothers and sisters, come over here, there's a lot of excitement, a lot of attraction. All they do is throw something in the water that's nice and shiny, and you open your mouth, grab it, and they do all the heavy work. There's a real demonstration of landing one. A beautiful cast. But Bob says, never mind. I'm only interested in getting the fish in on the bank. Never mind the technique. Fish on the bank of a rippling brook is a sight to behold. But there's one place better for my money, and that is in the frying pan, sizzling over an open fire, flavored with smoke and ashes. Do you get the aroma? And the spuds take on a deep coat of tan. Then the tails of the fish turn up crisp and brown. It's a dish fit for a king. Bob's mother taught him always to use his knife and fork properly wherever he may be. Dad said, Mother is right, but she doesn't know much about eating trout. Throw the silverware on the ground and go after them with your fingers. They reminded me as if they were two chipmunks sitting on a log shucking out peanuts. After lunch and a short ride, we try our luck in Jackson Lake. Jackson Lake is the largest of a series of 7 lakes which form a necklace at the base of the Tetons. The lake was filled with reflections of Mount Moran reaching into the sky and upended into the waters below. Western fishermen use peculiar-looking bait for luring these tackle busters of the deep. I haven't figured out to this day whether it's railroad iron, pancake turners, or sleigh bells that causes the attraction, and why a decent, respectable fish should give even as much as a passing glimpse to such a bait is still a mystery. I know of no other sport that covers such a wide range of folks and reaches so many as the sport of fishing. It appeals us at all times and is enjoyed by all in one form or another. It offers many simple and unique attractions, and we wear what we please. Some men go fishing to benefit their health. Some men fish because they love adventure. It is the same spirit that the hunter, the pioneer, the prospector, and the driver of the covered wagon to go in quest of game, new lands, and new minerals. Men like to go fishing because it means a break with routine experience. I suspect there is something that you haven't found out. Some kind of fish that hasn't been caught. No two catches are alike. The commonness of the food and the discomforts of the boat are soon forgotten after a night's sleep under the stars. Breakfast at daylight and a fresh start for the fishing ground, one goes forth with his tackle fully oiled, everything ready, with new hope, fully expecting to get the biggest fish of his experience, or one that will give him the biggest battle he has ever. If he fails, he knows it was because the moon was full, and the fish were feeding at night, or the water was too rough, or too smooth, or the bait was too small, or too large, or the fish migrated for a day, or for some reason. The day on Jackson Lake passed all too soon. The hours slipped by as if they were minutes. The long shadows in the golden western sky forecast the event of a closing day. It's time to reel in the line and head for shore, for a few moments to relive the thrill and the excitement of the catch, and to say goodbye to our good friend John. In the twilight over the Wyoming sky, the mainliner wings its way back home. On board is that little man of mine, Bob, and Dad, and your cameraman and narrator, Rudy Swanson, wrapped in dreams of cowboy land. Yellowstone with its geysers, paint pots, waterfalls, mud volcanoes, the snow-capped Tetons, the mystery of the wilderness country pass in review as memories which will become more golden as the years pass by. Truly outdoor America is at her best in the great American West. Wonderful